Right, so next up on the podcast is Alex. So this it started off as a bit of a different one last week. I've spoke to Alex months and months and months ago, and I actually just reached out to him just to do a podcast with him. And because in essence, if you follow this guy, very impressive. Like living in Tampa, US, like in my opinion, could have one of the top potential coaching teams in the States in general from kind of the quality that I've seen coming through. And even in the time that we've kind of known each other and briefly spoke, like I've seen the development that he's had, like as a husband, as a starting point, yeah. Then obviously as a businessman, as a coach, and obviously now as an athlete. So I'll just start off by obviously letting you kind of introduce yourself, mate, and then we'll go from there.
Yeah, of course, man. Well, first, I want to thank you for having me on here. Like you said, it's been a little bit of an extensive journey, with our relationship. I first learned a lot about you through a lot of people who I actually look up to. But just a little bit about me. I am an IFBB pro bodybuilder, was able to climb the ranks pretty quickly in my career. Qualified for the Olympia last year, placing in the second callouts in the men's physique division. I started my own coaching business about 2 years ago, officially. Been coaching now for just over 3 years, and honestly, has been one of the best decisions and true foundations of my happiness over the last few years. Another foundation has been a recent me being a recently married man, and honestly, just blessed right now. I'm able to connect with a lot of like-minded individuals, and get to wake up every single day and do what I absolutely love to do, whether it's coaching, bodybuilding, content creation. I feel like I can flirt with a lot of different buckets, but one thing, if I can wrap it in a bow, would simply say I'm a lucky and happy man.
What did you do before? I don't even know this.
Yeah. So when I first graduated from college in 2019, I actually started off as a recruiter. So basically, recruiting is a sales, hopping on a lot of phone calls, getting comfortable with rejection, which I think was a amazing stepping stone to kind of what we do now to a small degree. And then I got into tech sales, so a little bit more, right? Having to learn specifically about a product and how can it benefit a specific company, and then kind of create a pitch deck for that company. So I think every decision and every position that I've had since college has helped me kind of grow into a position now where I get a chance to, sell my own services and speak on the phone often, and again, build my own business.
Yeah, there's a massive difference, like between just having a coaching business and having a high performance business, right? So, for example, a lot of people jump into coaching, and not so much in the US, but in the UK, they kind of do it for the sake of it. They don't actually, I think some people in the UK and other areas like European coaching companies, they don't understand like there's real money to be made in it. So what they actually do is like often undercut themselves in terms of pricing, and they don't understand the sales aspect to it. Whereas it's very, very, very rare that I have any like discovery calls or take on any clients in the US who aren't charging good. And if you kind of compared that, like for example, a lot of US companies like 300, 350, $400 a month. UK, I know some UK coaching companies charging £75 a month.
Whew.
And you're talking, and when I'm saying, I know some very, very good coaching companies in the UK, like serious level, like contenders, doing 100, 125. And the reason for that is I feel like in the UK it's a lot more diluted than the US. It's obviously a much smaller place, and I think coaching kind of come around and become a lot more popular in the UK much sooner. But I think people are very, very spoiled. But it's really important to understand that, like, if you're going to start a coaching business, it's still a business. You do need to make money. So obviously,
Yeah.
you coming into it from a sales background is obviously going to give you a bit of a good edge to starting point.
Yeah, absolutely, man. And listen, there's a lot of things that I still need to learn, right? And that's kind of what brought us to get to now where we are. And as much as I love business, as much as I am passionate about what I do, I still think a lot of the biggest things holding me back from growing this business is myself, and I need that guidance, and I need that wherewithal from somebody who has been there, done it, who has seen some of the mistakes that we've made, and again, kind of help us steer, into a direction where I know our potential can be. So, just as much as I love, my foundation, and it helps me get to where I am. Again, some of the biggest things holding the business back is me. So I'm excited to really dive in deeper.
Yeah, that's actually going to be a big roundup on the final question today, because I'm going to list everything. I'm going to list everything that you're about to actually do. But before we obviously get to that point, right, as people know at this point now, 2 years doing this, doing fucking well, like not only like as an athlete in life and business, Reform. Right, I've never actually heard of a company, and that's one of my hardest things is I have like new people coming in. They come to me, it's like, right, the brand is awful, the name is awful, and I'm like, look, we need to think outside the box. So I've researched endless coaching names. Right, I've never ever come across Reform. Right,
Yes.
so where did that come from? What does it mean? What is it?
Growing up, dude, it's funny. So growing up, I've had the same coach in bodybuilding since I started off. I started bodybuilding my senior year of college. So 2019. And I've always had the physical attributes of what it was to be a good athlete, whether it was football growing up and then eventually into bodybuilding. But I was faced with a lot of adversity in the 2020 season when I was prepping for my pro card. And shows were getting canceled left and right. There was COVID season, left and right. And it really had me questioning a lot of, should I just stop prep? And, I've been prepping for so long. I'm tired. I want to be a normal person. My coach told me something in that moment. He told me, if you want to be a pro, you got to start thinking like a pro, and you need to reform your mindset. And ever since he said those words, it clicked. Right. And those words have stuck with me. And it's people asking, hey, what's the best advice you've ever gotten? Right. If you want to be a pro, you got to start acting like a pro before it happens. And then transitioning into that, that's when I started to reform my mindset and understanding that this is not just a season type of sport. This is more of a lifestyle. And it's just like growing a business. This is a lifestyle, right? You don't have an opportunity, if you truly want to grow this to its maximum potential, to just, close the computer and not open it up for weeks at a time. But regardless, I have realized that it's more of a mindset shift that I needed at that time. And once I had the opportunity to start a business, I was thinking for a while, like, what do I want to name this? And I went back to draw a correlation to the best advice I've ever got, which was simply I needed to reform my mindset. And ever since I did that, I took it, in my own hands. And to wrap it up with this, bodybuilding, it's much more than the physical. I think it's more mental than it is anything. I've seen a lot of top athletes not being able to control this, and then because of that, it took them off their path. But one thing that I've been able to do over my last few years, which has truly propelled me in a much quicker of a time frame, was reforming my mind, which again allowed me to take it to the next level.
You know what's funny there? The last 3 podcasts that I've had with high performance people, right? And there's 2 guys who I've just had, Joe Parrish and Mark Rhodes. They're like serious companies. And in both of those conversations, and also with a resilience coach last week, all of them highlighted to focus on spotting something or reforming something or creating a intervention of something before it actually happens. So as you can kind of see there with the play on words, you've kind of got reform, and I just pulled it out because you was like, if you want to get to this point, you need to do this first. And it's, for example, like in anything that you do in business or with your physique or anything else on that side, it's about constantly forward planning and constantly thinking, right, how can we create a intervention before having to do an intervention because it's got too late. So, for example, I'm going to be diving into this hard, like at the end of this form, in terms of like right now, like the build phase for Alex's company is all going to be focused on like building preventions and making sure that we're not having to come in and having to like stress because there's so much kind of stuff happening. And as we've kind of said, him being a bottleneck, and a lot of the decisions that we make is just being prepared for that before there is actually a problem. Because when you're at this point with where Alex is now, or for example, there Alex's nose rough, for example, with Iron Eden, they're experiencing hundreds, thousands of inquiries, right, which is not actually that beneficial unless you've got the right shit in place. So, for example, so we've got to constantly think, right, is there any point in us pushing right now until we're actually prepared for it? Do we have the right systems in place, which is what we're going to kind of break down after that. But for me, like reform is class. And one thing I'll point out here again is like the director of the company always actually has to represent that and like, for example, with you are absolutely ripping that apart to the max. Like when I was looking at, we're doing an overview of the company, like Amy with social media strategy, I was like, don't need to worry about that. He's already talking, doing, and showcasing all the right shit. And that's basically your job as a director. It's like me, for example, the coach consultant within business, just going onto social media and showing no quality, like talking in really stupid language, not putting any effort in, and not showing that kind of executive elite side to it also. Obviously, that's a massive point. So what I want to dive into now is when we kind of come in and we started talking months and months and months ago. And there's two ways that you can be a bottleneck as a director. The first is the fact that, especially if you're a coach, or for me as a consultant or old mentor, is the fact that everybody just wants you. That's the first one, which is what we're going to talk about at the end. But the second one is also the fact that because it's you, you feel like you need to be making decisions all the time. And it's really hard to put your trust in someone else's kind of hands. So what would you say has happened over the last 4 or 5 months since last time we spoke to this week, basically?
I think the biggest thing was I gave myself a reality check. I think I was comfortable to a small degree in our progression and where we were. And I thought, as the owner and somebody who was still always trying to be progressive and forward thinking and making, action on these forward thoughts was enough for me to, build this without any outside assistance. And then I had a reality check with the fact that I am taking on way too many clients currently. It is now diminishing my ability to give value to those clients when I speak, and that is who I am, right? We provide value, and we can go into that later. And then from there, I realized that I was stunning the growth of the coaches who were under me and working alongside. So when I gave myself that reality check, I realized I can't do this alone. As much as I want to, and throughout that time since we last spoke, right, I've hired our other coach, Chase, who I know as our team manager, right? He has a lot more responsibility because in the reality was I couldn't do this alone, but it didn't stop from there, right? I continued to look at what more could we do. And then from there, I brought on somebody who can help us with the social media aspect. I wrote down a list. I wrote down a list. I keep it all of these things here. Every single book, whenever I get an idea, I write down a list of things that I want Reform to do better. And I remember sitting down and going through everything and then saying, I need to make action. And I started making action, hired Chase. We hired a graphic guy who's going to hopefully help us take our social media to the next level. People think that I have a great grasp on social media. I kept finding reasons to not execute on things, but in reality, I needed to find a reason to do so. So we started making hires, we started making investments. And again, it came down to, we had this conversation. I needed to, again, make sure that all of my ducks are in a row. I want to make sure that we are in a position where we can start taking on additional guidance, whether it's our coaches being brought up to speed with, and held to a higher standard, whether it's we have, managers in order to help, educate and pass on the information that we had. And then I believe, I'm not gonna say you were the final step, but you were the next big step in, in that process was, again, giving myself that reality check, making small investments, and then eventually bringing in somebody who can steer the ship with a little bit more education.
Yeah. Do you know what it's like? If you want to be an innovator and a director, and this is why it's a bit of a tricky one for where Alex is now, because he's still a coach, right? And he's always going to be a coach. And I had this conversation with Cal Raystrick at Pro Coach this morning, because we're doing like a conference day with them next week in person. And I was like, right, I said, I'm going to do a strengths and weaknesses of every single person in the business. And I said, the weakness is the fact that you are still a coach and you're always going to be a coach, but you need to start moving into being more of just a director. Because while ever you're constantly, you've got your eye turned on this and it's got your pocket of clients, which is great. And that's where the majority, for a coaching business, that's where the majority of the money will always be. But long term, if you want to build out freedom and passive income, you need to be a director at the same time. So what you've got to take into account is if you're being a coach, a director, a social media manager, a fucking graphic designer, and everything else onto this side, something is going to slip pretty quickly. That's kind of just how it works. So for me, right, I have got no idea how to build optimize a CRM system. George does that. I don't want to even know how to do that because it hurts my head thinking about it, right? When it comes to like email marketing, active campaign, and doing all these triggers and all email automations, that's fine. I've got staff for that. And that's how I created the agency, because at one point for me, I was just Alex. I was just exactly the same spot going, right, I can't really do anything else from this point now. Like, where do I go from here? I need to have the right team behind me. So like that's how it works with us. Like for me, I know coaching businesses. That's the shit I know. I know people, I know high performance directors, I know how to do that. But all this stuff in between, it's about coming in, obviously kind of filling these gaps. And for Alex, like, I knew, and that people know me, know that I'm not a pushy salesperson. I never have been and I never will be, because we don't really need to. But for example, I've sat and watched this company and watched this company. It's been something I've been so excited to kind of get involved in, because I knew at some point down the line it would kind of come to fruition. But it's like when we come into this now, like the only time that I truly believe that we have the best success with like high performance teams is when there's an actual real buy-in, where someone turns around and goes, right, I know what we're missing, I know what you're doing, and they go total handover. Because otherwise, when you're in that space when you're still wanting to be in control of everything, anything comes together. Like I've had it with clients in the last few months where I'm like, look, your level of your inability to let us take it over and take control of it is the one thing is actually slowing your business down. So it's like with you right now, like I always say to directors, like you have one responsibility: to be a great manager with your team, or hire a great manager like you have and other companies have. Hammer your social media content and your personal brand, and think innovatively for the business. It's content creation, making videos, coaching and managing the team. You shouldn't need to focus on anything else, because if you focus on anything else, that's just diluting where your focus process should be.
Exactly, man. And again, circling back to the reality check, that's what I was realizing, man. Like at the end of the day, I was taking on more than I could chew at the time. And I think just that alone was doing more damage than good. And again, we prioritize value. That's who we are as coaches. We don't just speak those words. It's a big reason of why we are and who we are today. And, just the thought of realizing that we were actually diminishing the value for our client, it just wasn't worth it in the long run. So, again, I spoke to a lot of people about you guys. I've done my homework. I've spoken to some of the people you've worked with. I know personally a lot of the people that you've worked with. Like you said, Ruff, I spoke with him. John Ballard, spoke with him. Cal, spoke with them. And again, just a lot of positive things that were said. And I dug in deep too, to try to get past the surface. And again,
you have to do that though. 100% you do.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think it's really important that people do obviously kind of come and do that. But it's like where these guys are now, like they are literally just scraping the surface of the potential. And for me, it's like when I went to break down, like, right, this is where they are right now, this is where they are kind of going to be. It's an exact easy phased process. Because for example, like we come in and highlight in the business there straight away, you've got this model of build, manage and scale. And people turn around to me and they always go, why, like they generally ask, like, why is it always build, manage, scale? Why can't you just go straight into scaling? And I'm like, I would, from my experience, I've never met a single company which are ready for scaling as soon as we start working with them. Because I'll turn around and go, you've not got this. And guess what? During the build phase, so for example, with what we're going to do here, we were building CRM systems, building lead funnels, building email nurturing, post-call, lead generation, strategies, members platforms, everything else on that side. I'll start looking at all these guys in this team and go, right, they're missing that. He's missing that. They're as a team, they're missing this. So, for example, it's not just about coming and going lead generation and sales, because if you want to scale to a very, very, very good point, and using Cal as an example and the lads, like next week, we're going to do 2 hours where I'm going to get every single person sat in that room, including myself, and go through every single person's strengths and weaknesses. Because for them right now, they've gone through the build, manage, and scale on multiple different services. The only thing that's actually slowing the business down and inhibiting it is the actual people inside it. So, for example, like there's so many different ways to skin a cat, and people come to me and go, what would you do in my coaching business? And I'll go, I'll build, manage, and scale it. But they'll turn around to me and ask me, but what exactly are you going to do? I don't know until I've worked it out myself. Because we
Yep.
don't do like a cut process where it's like, right, if you watch this video, it's going to create this. No, that's not how it works. Every single meeting, every single company report, every message in the WhatsApp group, every bit of feedback from my staff on their calls, that accumulates the direction of where the business is going.
Yeah. And bro, every business is uniquely different, right? So it's not a one size fits all when it comes to this kind of stuff, right? Everybody has a different mission statement. Everybody has different starting points. Everybody has different strengths and different weaknesses. You can't come in there and be able to prioritize those in order to maximize the return. Then you're going to be letting a lot of things fall through the cracks. And that's one thing one of the biggest reasons why we brought you on, because it wasn't an approach where you come in here and it's just a simple stamp of now follow these directions. It's let's come in here and let's figure out the direction that we need to go, and then we lay the foundation. That's everything.
So and I've learned me speak about this so many times. Alex is in that spot where he's actually the issue within the business. And I love turning around and saying that to people. So the reason that he's the issue in the business is because he's that good, right? And I'm not, everyone knows me on my channel. I'm not a kiss ass in any way, shape, or form. But if you get Ben Bray, these people rough, like you've got all these big names and all these incredible coaches. What you've got is you've got one man who stood next to a brand. This is how it basically works right now. Like you've got Reform, you've got Alex here, right? What it basically needs to become is Reform's the first thing that people see before they even see Alex. He's not here anymore. He's hid at the top. If he wants to get some clients, he just goes, "Oh, I'm free." No, I'm not. Oh, I'm free there. And that's basically what it was. It's that mirroring image. So like for us and our job right now is to build as much value associated with, right, what is this business as a company, as a community, as a culture, and also the people within it. That's how you build a referral model. Like generally I have some clients who are, you're talking hundreds and thousands of inquiries, but they get poor conversions until they get that right. And that's a never-ending process. That's something that has to constantly be worked on, because Alex is going to stop improving his personal brand. That's the biggest lead generation for the company. But you might have so many leads coming through here, but they're not buying in because, again, well, little stuff like they're on a waiting list rather than being sent straight onto a call. They're not knowing the team before. There's not email nurturing sequences. The team are not managing the CRM side, so they're not directly following up in the right way, or they get someone onto a call, someone's not confident enough. And we don't know any of this shit until we're in the mix of it, until we're looking at the numbers and looking at the reports, and we come in and like, right, based on this in week one right now, let's just say we've had 25 direct inquiries, 4 sales and conversions, and 53 downloads. So for me, I'm like, right, so in essence there, we've technically got 70 leads and 4 conversions. So I know straight away, bang, lead generation has not been followed up properly, because it means we'd have more direct call bookings, and the call bookings that we've got not getting conversions right. So like this is all the numbers that I will kind of review. And for example, Charlie will dive in and he'll be honest. And that's the one thing with me and my team is we'll just come in and say it straight. And for companies like Reform's an incredible team. Right. So again, some clients you take on, you think, oh, we're going to it's going to take a little bit of time to work this one out, to find that equilibrium, because what you've got is you've got a merger. You've got a big group of people here, big group of people here, and sometimes you can have a butting heads. Sometimes it can be me and a director, and if it's me and a director, it's done because I don't even bother with it. But for example, like I'll not entertain it. But when you're coming in, like you've got a merger, but you can tell with Reform straight away, bang, as soon as you intro into that group and that community, like all my guys are like, this is going to be a class account to work with. And the reason for that is because the director of the business is actually excited to go into this working relationship. If I'd have forced Alex 4 months ago and gone, right, guilt tripped him to get into it, we wouldn't have had this type of starting point. It wouldn't be this positive, because it'd almost be like, we're doing it just to see what it's like, rather than someone coming to that absolute decision of going, this is what I need.
Yep. You gave me the ability to allow me to come full circle. And I think you knew eventually it would happen.
Oh yeah, I always know.
But I think after our first initial meeting, and we saw the clear value, and I think it was just more of a matter of time and allowing me to give myself these realizations before, again, the trigger was pulled. And again, I think, the time that we had, we definitely got some things in a row, or our ducks in a row. We definitely are now in a better position to be a sponge. And right now, I think this is the best opportunity for us to take team reform to the absolute next level, man. And you don't understand that. I'm so excited. Like, I'm looking up, I'm talking to already our business manager. Hey, is there anything you want me to do beforehand? Let's have the meetings first.
No, for example, the only thing right now, I don't know, I'm going to bring this up because I had a conversation with, I don't know if you know Ryan Cartwright in the UK, Ryan
Yes.
Reiner.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
so he's in, so basically, you're competing in 5 weeks, aren't you?
Yes.
Yeah, so for example, Ryan, it's been hard for him because he's just been a one-man band. He's not really got a team. So, for example, I've already said to my lot, please don't be pushing anything onto Alex in any way, shape, or form for the next 4 or 5 weeks because it's going to be on his arse in prep. So, and straight away, that's why I was like, right, Chase, bang, he's going to be the man, right? The other team, they're going to be the man because this is what it's like when you've got teams, and this is why it's great. You can constantly make progress having the right people in the business. So, like, for example, with Ryan right now, he's obviously coaching on his own. It's been hard for him because he's getting hammered straight in the face all the time. And I said to him this morning, I said, like, look, the competition season and everything else on that side, it's incredible. Proof of product, got a ridiculous engagement. I said, but can you see, like, there's a lot more to scaling a high performance coaching business than just having sick nudes on Instagram. But the thing with us right now is Alex is going to be getting all the engagement. We're going to have all the systems, all the marketing framework, all the funnels, all everything. And all his team have got to do is make sure that we obviously get it kind of built. So that's why it's going to be an exciting time.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And, just taking you back to last year, after I've won my pro show, qualified for the Olympia, 2 weeks later, I had one of my highest notable clients, Christian Guzman, step on stage. He won his show, and then literally a week right after that, all these 3 weeks back to back, I've had 5 clients win overalls in one show. So almost every single division they won an overall, and it was a very notable show. And because of that, the inquiry list jumped up so high to a point where it was the first week I made a wait list too. I put it on there and it was over thousands of people. And I'm sitting here, and this is happening just within the first couple of days. And I'm sitting here like, I don't even know where to start. I can't have thousands of conversations. And bro, when I mean there was hundreds and hundreds of people who I wasn't able to respond to, that moment is when I realized something needs to change. And again, it now progressed us to where we are now. So we had to do a lot of, messing up in order to learn. And then we had to do a lot of, like I said, reality checks to put ego aside and make investments that I know is going to take us to the next level.
It's like there straight away for me. It's like, because all I hear is like problem solution. So it's like in that situation, like bang, that's why we need a community platform. That's why we need to get all those people who had interest into one space, getting nurtured. But for example, like it made me trigger when I was explaining to Charlie and Beth on the intro call, like saying, like, look, what is this actual company like? And obviously you've got Charlie, who's like the head of sales and director of sales for clients. And I said to him, Charlie, what I want you to imagine, that this company, the only thing that we've got is a waiting list where potentially people are waiting 10, 12, maybe even 2 weeks or whatever else on that side to even get a reply or a call with a coach, and they're still signing people up easily. And he was like, what the fuck? Because what we're going to do is let's just say those 1,000, let's just say, you need a lot of coaches, but let's just say 200 people book a call. We're going to have 200 people on calls within days from that point, distributing and automating out and having the team organized and obviously kind of closing. And that's the one thing with this is like, there's nothing negative about that because 1,000 leads, that's multi-million-pound business. But in essence, you learn your lessons. And it's like, I've done the same. I remember I went into like this with CP education. And yeah, this is 2 years ago. 2 years ago, I can't remember when I first launched it. I did like a pre-release build up, and I had loads of like lead gen stuff where I dropped loads of webinars and loads of PDF stuff on that side, right? Didn't have a fucking CRM system. Didn't have email nurturing. Didn't have thought processes in. I just had this mindset years ago where I was like, right, I'm going to drop lead gen. So I'm going to get loads of interest. And we had hundreds, and I'm talking, I could have rocketed the business from the launch. We had hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of downloads of this free content that I created. But I had no data capture. I had no follow-up CRM system process. I had nothing. So I converted fuck all. Yeah. Despite having all of that interest, all of that awareness, all of that value, all what happened is someone just went, oh, that's a Mint webinar. That's a Mint PDF. Oh, that's great. Because I didn't have the right type of sales team, follow-up team and systems in place to obviously nurture them to the point of actually wanting to be part of the service. And this is what you've got with Alex right now. Alex is basically one massive lead magnet. That's it. Right? You're one massive lead magnet. How do we monetize that? And that's by having, again, you've already got a sick team, good management. What we're doing is building systems, skills, training, and marketing framework around that. And your job never changes. To be the one who's getting the sickest results, to be the one who's posting the best content, to be the one who's getting the most engagement, to one who's getting the best stuff, because your personal brand becomes like 10-pin bowling. You've got 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 coaches behind you. All you do is you smash yourself as hard as you can and knock everyone else behind you. Whereas before, what you're doing is you're looking around thinking, shit, what's happening with this team? What's doing there? And can you see how people listening to this, if he's constantly turning around and focusing on what his team are doing or talking about building a social media graphic or stuff onto that side, how's he going to get 25,000 views on that reel when he's not putting effort into it?
And that's, yes, I saw a lot of things diminishing outside of not only just reform, when I was trying to give all these, again, watering different plants, that's how I look at it. I was doing so much, when in reality, if I just would have nurtured, one or two at a time, I think things would have progressed. And right now, allowing to have a little bit more back-end support, some more education on what we're doing, right, and giving me the ability to take some time and focus on bringing up the people who we have on our team, that's going to be everything, man. Our foundation is everything. And now taking a step back to review and adjust our foundation, it's only going to springboard us much further.
That's it, mate. It's like, because people turn around, I do get asked this question now. It's like, oh, what do I do in the agency? So, because we've got so many staff, and you'll see the amount of one-to-one calls we've got this week, it's like, oh, what do you actually even do now? And I'm like, for me, the first initial starting point is everything, because I build what it actually is, the design of it, the look of it, the approach, everything. But my key job now is every single week when I'm getting these reports, and every single week that I'm speaking to someone, I'm getting to know someone is, for example, if I look at high performance teams, like people that we'll know here, Iron Eden and Rough, I know these guys inside out now. So I know the people within the team. So I know, for example, right, look, they're slacking, or they're doing really, really well, or because of X, Y, Z, we need to make this move next. And people turn around and go, why do we need to do that? I said, watch what happens. And that's where I kind of come in now, is like, for example, yeah, I've got staff doing loads of stuff, but I can see all these gaps and all these challenges that are kind of coming through. And that's not something you can do in 2 minutes. And that's not something which is a copy and paste model. It probably takes me 6 to 8 weeks to turn around and go, right, yeah, I know this fucking team now. Because there's always some dark horses, and you'll find that, mate, as a proper new business. 2 years as a new business owner. In 3-4 years, when you've got more coaches, more staff, more everything, experience working with an agency, you'll start to figure out really how people operate on a business level and not just as a client. And that's like a skill that has to be developed as an actual director. And it's one thing I said to Cal this morning. I said, I'm going to teach you to be a top level fucking director, bro.
Yes. And that's what I'm ready to be. I know it's got a lot of time, got a lot of things to learn, but I think this investment is that next step in bettering myself as a leader, more than anything else.
100%. Right. You've got a CRM call, haven't you?
Yes, in what, 30 minutes?
Yeah, that's gonna blow you out of. But yeah, so like I said, and I literally reached out to Alex last week just because I wanted to do a podcast with him, because there's that type of guy. So if you don't follow him on my page, I'd suggest do follow him. But all I'm going to say is everyone knows how we operate and what we do. And if I'm turning around and saying like this has got one of the biggest potentials that I've kind of seen in a very long time, well, not a very long time, but in a while, with new people coming in, this is going to kind of blow the lid off. So I'm very much looking forward to it.
Thank you. And again, thank you for the opportunity, not only to have you on the podcast, but to help take reform to the next level, man. We appreciate it. We look forward to it. And this is just the beginning.
Awesome, bro.